I have to confess to you, my fellow panelists, but given that the Super League has collapsed in a heap of dust, and I have to admit, it wasn't, my thoughts were not about the Super League itself, but more about football.
What is Jordan complaining about? What is LeBron complaining about? They earn a lot of money.
You know what I've noticed with this tribalism thing? It is present, but then the governing bodies, the shows, the TV channels that are promoting the shows, they always speak of a kind of higher level of behavior, higher moral ground, as if somehow the tribalism is some hangover from prehistoric time.
Yeah, I mean, it just had me wondering about the deterrence, because you know, the chants and the banana skins and all the things that Kindred have spoken about. I mean, they are tantamount to hate crime.
Organize, sit down, reason and talk. And the Quaba to another ORT. However, this is ORT with a difference. Due to some technical problems, we lost some of the recordings from the show. The main part of the recordings that were lost was the quiz. But that has presented us with an opportunity where the listeners will answer the quiz questions instead of the panelists in much the same way. So, when I ask the question, wherever you are, in your car, in the toilet, wherever you're there, just shout out the answers and I will hear you. Trust me, I will hear you. So, welcome to another ORT where the panelists and I tackle the matter of the proposal of the European Super League.
Greetings, Kindred.
How you doing, Ebony?
I'm good, my lovely. How are you?
Good to hear you. I'm fine.
Hello.
All right. No, we can't kick off, man.
Hello.
Using a method.
Brother S.
You can't hear us?
Fine voice as usual.
I can hear you. I can hear you all. Greetings, Brother Kush.
Greetings.
Sister Ebony and Sister Kindred.
Greetings, Brother S.
Good
Brother
to
S,
hear you.
One week you need to join us singing with those dulcet tones of yours.
Yes, man. So, welcome to another ORT, the show of love, light, and laughter, with our resident panelists, our voice of compassion, Ebony Harmony.
Greetings, family. Greetings, listeners.
Our king of one-liners, Brother S.
Greetings all. Greetings, my people.
Our eye of analysis, Kindred Spirit.
Greetings, everyone.
And me, your host, Baba Kush. And what's been catching our eyes since we last met? And the time flying?
Tell me about it.
You're a sign of aging. Yes, so what's been catching anyone's eye since the last show?
What hasn't? Obviously, George Floyd and the verdict.
Hey, my nephew, he calling me Baby Al, but Jesse calling me Steve Harvey. But man, it's I feel relieved today that I finally have the opportunity for hopefully getting some sleep. A lot of days that I prayed and I hoped and I was speaking everything into existence. I said, I have faith that he will be convicted.
Yeah.
But I would also have alongside that, for me, the situation in St. Vincent.
Absolutely.
And what they're going through there. And the concerns that, aid and evacuation is only being offered to people who have had the COVID injection.
Isa?
Apparently. So yeah, there's some goings on there in relation to that, which is worrying.
And it's really disgusting, man.
Yeah.
Disgusting. But thank you for that. Brother S, what's caught your eye?
Well, I was going to talk about the St. Vincent situation also. So, yeah, that's what's caught my eye, and my condolences and sympathies go out with all the people who have been affected by that, both in the country, those who've had the forced evacuation, and for those extended family members abroad here and around the world who are, because of the COVID situation, not really able to meet and connect with them in the ways that they would like to. So my thoughts are with those people right now.
Well said, Brother S. Echo that.
And we encourage people to give things, what you have, lend some support to them, whatever support they've got. They're still collecting and taking contributions. So,
absolutely,
keep it in the forefront of your mind. Ebony Harmony, what's happening for you?
I have to also say the volcano and the events around that, but more so, and
yeah, just repeat that last sentence for us, just in case we missed that, please, Ebony, in terms of your disappointment with the relief effort.
Yeah, it just doesn't appear to be much galvanization.
Tell me something, Kindred. You going on a holiday this year?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Oh gosh, man.
It would be very nice, but it depends on what conditions are placed on me.
We may be only able to travel to Bournemouth.
Yes, well, that's the worry.
Clacton,
Well, somebody told me they were looking into holidays in Bournemouth, and it was something like £800 for a family of 4 for a 3-day sort of long weekend break. So there you go.
Whoa.
So that's what we have to look forward to.
Jeez, peace. It's crazy, man. I was checking today on the .gov.uk website, and it's still it is telling you not to travel.
Well, the messages are very mixed, because they're also telling you that international travel should resume from the 17th of May at the earliest.
Okay, 17th of May, all right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm preempting it then.
So who knows? It will probably change tomorrow, because it seems to change by the hour.
Yeah, but oh gosh, man. We got things to take care of, man. People for see.
Haven't we just?
You know? Lord of His mercy. And we know all the British summer go. God, I was just checking the weather, and this temperature we have now is gonna be there for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we're not gonna, maybe June may be hotter, I don't know, but me have to get my vitamin D top up, so something I have to go change.
Well, maybe you could treat yourself to a sunbed, Kush.
Look here now. Do you know that doctors prescribe that?
I have heard this. I have heard it.
Cause I had a brethren who used to deliver them, one black man, and some of his clients, it was a prescription. The doctor prescribed it, so they used to deliver. Yes, man. Maybe for them people they will have SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
I mean, I can see that. I can see that. So that will have to be your default position.
No. You're mad like Shad. Them time them store up on somebody's boat.
Oh dear. I think we have to consider all options.
So here we go. And today we have our quiz. And I know I am with some of the sharpest minds when it comes to matters related to melanated people. People, are you ready? No! Oh Lord. Question 1. White people have partners. What do black people have? That's right. Man or woman. Wife or husband. Question 2. If someone gives you a chops, what have they given you? When someone gives you a chops, what them give you? That's right, a kiss. Question 3. When white people's parents die, they go off work for one day and they return almost unmoved. What happens to black people in the same circumstances? We get begs for even having to work and cuss about the little time we had to beg for them to give us off. Question 4. What is the link between Kush-I, the artist, and Daddy U-Roy? What is the link between Kush-I, the artist, and Daddy U-Roy? That's right. Well, I'm with a clever set of people, Lisa. Kush-I had a hit song called Toast, and Daddy U-Roy's style of singing is also termed toasting. Question 5. Abigail, Crown, Nassau, four sisters, Anna, Eliza are names of ships. What were these ships owned for? Abigail, Crown, Nassau, four sisters, and Anna, Eliza. Exactamente. They were slave ships. In fact, they were Jewish-owned slave ships. Question 6. Thinking about today's topic, which is the proposal of the European Super League. Arthur Wharton, who is he? Arthur Wharton, W-H-A-R-T-O-N, who is he? That's correct. He's considered to be the first black professional footballer in the world.
I've heard good reports about this new lad.
Go on, Smedley. Give it one of them cannonballs.
He might be able to give one of his cannonballs, but I've heard this goalkeeper's the best in the north.
Better than Bob Gardner? I doubt it.
This one's Scottish as well. Well, part Scottish, part African.
African?
Yeah, I forgot to mention Mr. Arthur Wharton's originally from Ghana.
Ghana?
You can repeat everything I say.
Are you sure he's a goalkeeper? That's some turn of speed he's got.
Fastest man over 100 yards.
100 yards?
Let's just watch him and see how he copes with Smedley's cannonballs.
I live for my sport, whether it be cricket, running, cycling or football. It would be an honour.
Then welcome to Darlington Football and Cricket Club, Mr. Wharton.
Born on the 28th of October 1865 and transitioned on the 12th of December 1930. Arthur Wharton, we salute. Question 7, final one before we go to reasoning. When football players get extremely minor injuries, they roll around on the ground saying, "Lord, me can't take it no more." Which artist had a song of that same title? "Lord, me can't take it no more." That's correct. It was Papa San and General Degree. Well done. Round of applause to all of you. Well done.
Sam, you're gonna come.
Yo, Rex, yo, you think I wouldn't guess you? But you the road I call for people girl picnic. You little broad. Yes, alright. Yo, me inside here tonight now. Lord, we can't take it no more. When I done with your boy, your bottom going sore. Lord, Granny, take time with me. Pass the broomstick, respect your granny.
No, Granny, leave me with the broomstick. Give me a chance and we will wash up the dish. No, Granny, mind your bust the lip. As morning light, me I go empty the rubbish.
You ever get a granny lick? You ever feel a granny kick? When I done, you think I Bruce Lee this. Mike Tyson to hell him no fit. You wanna see me bum flick? Why? I show you see me reach 86. So you never know, say me know the trick. See ya boy, me still go body basic. Boy, let go half of me slip. And when you want the Westport, me private.
I chew the link out of me slip and me drop and me couldn't balance and me hold up by your frog.
Yeah,
me can't take it no more.
When I done with you boy, your bottom going sore. Yeah, Granny, take time with me. How much time I tell you if you respect your granny?
This is ORT.
This is Solomon from Black Child Promotions, one of the UK's best black book distributors. And we operate across London. Our main locations are usually Oxford Circus on Tuesdays or Wednesdays and Brixton Thursday and Friday. Come check us out. You can also check us out on Instagram at Black Child Promotions and Facebook Black Child Space Promotion. Peace, family.
And this week's book recommendation is Hope, My Life in Football by Hope Powell. Hope Powell was a skinny little black girl from South London who only ever wanted to play football. Brought up in a violent home, she was actively discouraged from playing. The original Bend It Like Beckham girl. This is the amazing story of our kid from a Greenwich housing estate became one of the most influential women in world football. A revered international footballer and then for 15 years manager of England, Hope Powell will forever be the face of English women's football. She took the national game from amateurism to top flight performance and dedicated herself to opening up the sports to hundreds of thousands of girls and young women at the grassroots level.
ORT, we do it 'cause we love you.
This show is sponsored by Sunrise Organic Sea Moss, whose purchasing details are in the description below.
Sunrise Organic Sea Moss. Who say you can't drink sunshine?
Now back to the debate.
You know something? I literally can't believe it when I saw Arsenal's name come up on the screen as one of the teams. The same Arsenal as only just, a couple of weeks ago, commending on the tribute to David Rocastle. God, man, be turning his grave, knowing what's going on now. Is this how far we're fallen, where we now are getting into competitions because we're not good enough to get into them? So we have to, to the detriment of the English game, we're getting a seat at a table that we have no right to be at. It's shameful. I've heard that word used, and it is shameful. I totally disagree with it.
Gary, what would you say now you've had a little time to consider what this European Breakaway League is all about and the reaction to it so far?
Well, the reaction to it is that it's been damned, and rightly so. I'm a Manchester United fan and have been for 40 years of my life, but I'm disgusted, absolutely disgusted.
Obviously, the last 24 hours has been dominated by this talk of the Super League. Have the Leeds players had much chance to absorb it, to discuss it at all?
We've just seen pretty much what everyone else has seen on Twitter and stuff, and it's amazing, just like the things that they're talking about. I can't quite comprehend. I mean, it's amazing the amount of uproar as well that comes into the game when somebody's pockets are being hurt. So it's a shame it's not like that with all the things that go wrong at the minute, with racism and stuff.
It was a well-scripted apology. It was heartfelt. It seemed to be heartfelt. How meaningful it is, we don't really know. But I tend to not listen to too much noise in the last 2 days and try and analyse what's been happening. And what's been happening is there's been a power struggle between elite groups that control football to exploit the fans. That's all it was. It's just a question of who's going to exploit them.
So thank you for putting forward this topic, Kindred, in terms of the European Super League. Why did this one stand out to y'all?
Well, I have to confess to you, my fellow panelists, but given that the Super League has collapsed in a heap of dust, it kind of, and I have to admit, it wasn't, my thoughts were not about the Super League itself, but more about football in general and our particular relationship with it as a people. And this is a subject where I don't pretend to be that knowledgeable about football. And I'm very happy to be educated by my fellow panelists and the audience if my understanding of this is incorrect. So this is a learning curve for me. But what is in my mind at the moment is I am very well aware of the gains that football has given us as a people. I've seen firsthand how at a grassroots level, I've seen the benefits that it's given a lot of our children in terms of confidence building, friendships, getting children active and out there. I've seen it. I know it's a good community tool. And I've seen in recent years how the girls as well are really embracing it and enjoying it and getting the very same benefits of it from it. So I know that it can be a force for good. But there are two things in particular that I find strange about football, and they seem to be specific to football when it comes to us. And the first thing is that whenever there is an issue or an incident and a black player speaks out about race, he makes a complaint, there seems to consistently be this undercurrent of, well, they're highly paid, so they need to suck it up a bit, okay? This is part and parcel of what they have to accept because they're highly paid.
Mm-hmm.
And that is never expressed, at least openly, in any other industry that I know. And nobody expects that of a bus driver or a bank manager. But we put this on footballers, and members of our own community will express this to some extent as well. So being highly paid brings with it a consequence that you must accept this. Now, why do we have the same expectation that, for example, Hollywood stars are very highly paid? Would we suggest that Denzel Washington or Samuel Jackson should put up with monkey chants and bananas being thrown at them because they're highly paid? I've never heard that expressed. Would we have that same expectation of, I don't know, Beyonce or Rihanna if somebody was throwing bananas on the stage and racially abusing them while they were performing? I don't think we would. But we seem to have some way of making it okay when it comes to footballers. So that's one of the strange things I don't understand.
Mm.
The second thing is there is this constant mantra that, well, football's tribal. It's tribal, which becomes an excuse for some of these behaviors to be justified. And the problem with the whole tribal argument is it filters right the way through, from the crowd to the players on the pitch to the management of football. So everybody's on this tribal argument. So you get these situations where some things I've seen over the years where you get a player who's complaining about the racial abuse that he might have suffered, but then turning a blind eye while his white teammate racially abuses a black player on the opposing side. And you get, people in the crowd, you'll get white people in the crowd who will racially abuse a black player on the opposing side, but complain if the opposing crowd racially abuses a black player on their team.
That's tribalism.
You get these things, and you get, managers making racist comments towards players. You get, over the years, there's been issues about training ground, bust-ups and stuff like that. And it all comes under the umbrella of this, it's tribal. So,
but it's true.
But you see, you can't and then you've got kick racism out of football.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very confused about how those things coexist in football in a way that I don't see it in any other industry. And it might be that I'm misunderstanding football. So I will put that out there, and I am happy to be educated on this. I find it very strange.
Don't bother put it out there and go sit down, Okay, good. Brother S, You were there.
Yeah.
On this tribal issue. What do you want to say?
Well, I'm saying, sister, you made a number of really good points. Some which are paradoxically opposed, and that's probably why you're somewhat confused about how this exists in football. But I will say that it spreads further than football. It would be the same in basketball. It would be the same in American football.
Okay.
It would be the same in baseball,
Right.
where they would say, what is Jordan complaining about? What is LeBron complaining about? They earn a lot of money. So, we remember the famous thing where the Fox commentator said to of LeBron James, he should just play basketball.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Which was basically just tapping him on his head and reminding him, know your place.
Right.
Yeah. Right? So these things exist. It runs through other sports. But going back to that point about tribalism, the examples that you gave are real and they're true. And that wasn't to dispute your point. It was just to say that that's exactly what happens. When it does become that tribal, it crosses over the boundaries of logic and rationale, because you will see a black and white supporter or a black supporter not put down or condone what a white supporter says of the opposing team or of an opposing player. But that's entrenched in them. It's embedded in them. If you talk about some rivalries in the sport, Liverpool, Everton, Tottenham, Arsenal. I mean, Manchester United, Man City. These clubs or the players who play for them, 99% of them would never cross over and leave one club to play at the other club. And the supporters would expect that of them. That's tribalism. I'm not saying it's right, but it's very apparent, and it is an ongoing, I think tribalism in sport is the microcosm of what goes on in the world. Yeah. I think, the example of the bully in a group, or the victim in a group. The victim in a group who the rest of the group members victimize, right? And it seems to be accepted. And then somebody from outside of that group comes and teases the victim. And the group rally around and say, what you doing? You can't do that to our man. And they say, well, why not? You do it to him. He said, yeah, but no, but he's our man. So we can. And I think that runs across, again, it's irrational. You go, what do you mean? You're allowed to, yeah, he's our mate. We can tease him if we want, but but they'll protect him against somebody from the outside doing it. And I think that those things have always run across sports, tribalism, asking of loyalty, differentiating between are you the friend or the enemy. I think those things have existed for a long time. But I think you make some really good points about the persistence of this in sport and the fact that it should not be there. You're 100% right. It shouldn't be there. But I'm sorry to tell you that not only is it there, but it's going to persist to be there, because that's one of the things that differentiates one supporter or one person liking a particular thing from another.
But you know what I've noticed with this tribalism thing, it is present, but then the governing bodies, the shows, the TV channels that are promoting the shows, they always speak of a kind of higher level of behavior, higher moral ground, as if somehow the tribalism is some hangover from prehistoric times, but actually it's quite central to how these teams function. Yeah. Ebony, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it just had me wondering about the deterrence, because you know, the chants and the banana skins and all the things that Kindred have spoken about. I mean, they are tantamount to hate crime. You know, I mean, if we start with football, and I don't know, I really actually don't know what kick out racism does in the football realms, and you know how it deters racism, or what the incentives there are to kind of like fight against it or stand up against it. But in the legal realms, as I said, racism is a hate crime, and I'm not sure how much evidence they need to act upon it. I mean, you have the CCTVs, don't you? You have membership cards. I mean, I would think it's easy to identify people who perpetrate the racist abuse crime. And you know, the definition of that is it's something that's perceived by the victim or any other person. So it doesn't have to be a complaint by the victim to be motivated by hostility or prejudice. And I think clearly that's it. It is hostile, isn't it, in support of their team under this perceived support of their team. And the prejudice is, one, racist. Particularly that's evidenced by the bananas and some of the things that they chant, or because of a person's race. I mean, it may well be, you know, their way of supporting their team, but it's not acceptable and it's a crime. So I wonder about the deterrence, and I wonder why they're not acted upon, because it's there in your face. And so it does have me wondering about that.
You know what? You know, there's a locker room culture in most of these sports, which Brother is quite rightly pointed out. And you wonder how strong is this lock. You know, I can recall seeing footballers back in the day. 20 man, all in a one bath, a beard. And the first thing me say, me na a beard, no man, you know. No. No, I'm having my own shower with my towel around me. No man, nah. But it creates a real source of tension. And when you listen to older football players, you know, you can they don't say it, you know, but you can see that they know they have to absorb themselves into this culture.
Yeah.
If they love playing football, they really love it, and then they meet up with attitudes which they're probably not used to, and then they're saying, you know something, because I want to play football, I'm going to put up with it. So when Ebony was talking about deterrent, I think going back to this point of me saying I wouldn't be it with some people, we have to have our own cut-off points with some of these things for people to take us serious. And sometimes when I listen to some of the players talk, the older players, they don't even have two sentences to put together after George Floyd or after some big event. I know they roll out John Barnes quite often. But a lot of the players, they don't have two sentences to tell us about what's happening in the game. Black players who have been around, and it's odd. I remember when I remember when I was doing karate, and we had to fight another club. And in the other, I was the only black person in my club. And then there was another club we had to fight, and there's only one black person. And I didn't know him because he used to train at our club. So I see him. And he pulled me one side as we do. And we start talk. And you know, white people get suspicious when black people talk. You see, when him gone, about 3 of my white colleagues come over to me and he says, none of us are friends here, you know. None of us are friends. And you know, that's just one little glimpse, one little vignette into some of the subtle pressures that you have to go through once you're not like the rest of the population of the team. So you can imagine.
Right.
You know?
I do hear that, and I understand that very, very clearly. It's just interesting to me that given the sheer numbers that there are in the Premier compared to maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 ago, there surely has to be some kind of collective power that these players can have now that maybe wasn't possible a while ago. And you know, and the popularity of these players as well, there's something that there is leverage there, if they choose to organize themselves in such a way to use it.
Oh, I think they have done. And I think in terms of you've got Troy Townsend and you've got Paul Elliott, both distinguished figures in the game.
Yes.
However, in terms of them influencing the decisions that the FA and the Premier League will make as regards to the racism which is being evident on the turnstiles, and more recently, the abuse that's been suffered at the hands via social media, right? They have very little influence on the outcome of those decisions. So I'm not saying that they're just figureheads. I think when they speak, I believe them, but they also often put their hands up and say that we are a small cog in the wheel of football, and football is, going back to the ESL, at times can be far more concerned about money and generating money and making money.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Right? As opposed to tackling some of the issues within that business, such as racism.
Well, all right, then. I want to pose a question then. Sometimes, I'm an Arsenal fan, and brother is a Chelsea man.
Mm-hmm.
When we have players playing for us, the first thing me do, I go on social media to see the color of my wife, That's the first thing, because I'm so taken aback by how much of our players, don't want to be with a black woman. And that then starts to lead me to think, well, how committed are you then as a collective to raising these issues? And this week in the Leeds-Liverpool game, Patrick Bamford come out. I forgive it to him, man.
Yeah.
And him say, watch out. It's strange how people react when money involved, to this ESL thing, this European Super League.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't there such a concerted effort to tackle racism?
Mm-hmm.
And as a white player saying that, no, I can bet you're not going to get 5 black players come out and say that. Even after him said that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. There are many platforms. There are many platforms I think that we're not privy to. But remember, in terms of our interest of some of these players and what they might have to say, I don't go to their sites. So, I have to plead ignorance to some degree. I can't just say they're not out there. I actually haven't gone to look for them because I've not any real interest in them.
I look.
Right?
I look for the ones I know,
great,
and them not say nothing. Trust me, man. And you see, Sky Sports. Sky Sports is waiting for somebody to talk about race. This is why the Patrick Bamford thing stand up, because they are really genuinely, especially since George Floyd, they're genuinely trying to make and draw some people. Mika Richards is our next one, who's a commentator on Sky, and Graham Souness asked him. He said, when I was a player, we do all kind of racist things. Mm-hmm. Now I look back on it, I can see my ignorance. What would you say I should do? And he couldn't answer the man with a tangible answer.
Right.
So I don't think they're being as forceful. And we would know. I'm telling you, if some of them was vexed about a certain issue, like when Raheem Sterling come out, we would know.
That's true.
You don't have to go searching for it,
That's true.
And sometimes, I'm not saying they're in an easy position. They might have show and all kind of things with man where don't have that historical perspective with them, and they don't care, because there's one word I've often heard in football which runs counter to what we're discussing now, and that is servant. When you play for a team and you play well and you don't get uppity and you just do your job, they say you were a good servant for the team.
For the club.
For the club then. Good servant. And I think that is what there is their primary thing. People are coming in with these ideas of using football to create social justice. The people who go to the games and the players, they're no business. It's only now 1 and 2 of them coming out, Gary Neville and some other man coming out and saying it. But what they're primarily interested in, can we beat the other teams? We don't care about your social issues. Can you get the ball in the back of the net?
Yeah. But that's the game. That's the game, right? And so what you're asking them to do then, and I'm being devil's advocate here. If it wasn't about the game and it was about isms, then that would detract them from what they want to achieve.
I get that. All I can say is one person's name, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And him still a race, but him put on him shot. And him say, Breonna Taylor forget justice and right. You see what I say? And I don't think enough of us are concerned. During the lockdown, how many black players did we hear gone off go party? And I break lockdown rules and them friend gone. And they can't do that. We don't have a problem with that. And what I'm saying is, I don't think they're being as robust and vigorous on these issues.
Absolutely.
As they could be, And whether it's because of that locker room culture, I don't know. But I see what Kindred is pointing out here in terms of this whole tribalism, how that may be impacting on somebody's decisions about standing up. And the other point I wanted to make about the European Super League is Tottenham built a new stadium. I know people come from Tottenham, and I can't tell you one person who even worked on the stadium. So football has this weird thing where, yes, they will give 100,000 for charity, but what are they doing within the communities then to reduce unemployment? Manchester United are the same thing. One time, we knew Manchester United as Gunchester. There was so much crime. Way before London. And yet that is the biggest team in the world. And you're telling me within the immediate era, you can't even say, something, we're trying to address some of these social issues so the youth's not dealing with drugs or crimes. So I think there is a disconnect. And part of this whole ESL, European Super League argument is that it's now shone a light on actually the existing system not being sophisticated enough to work with some of these social issues, much less some of the grassroots football teams.
I don't think we've heard the last of the Super League. It will probably morph and come back again in a different form.
Nah.
You don't think?
I hope it. I was so sad it went down. I was upset because to see the Boris Johnson and all these people who didn't take the same action when certain other things are going on. I mean, it was just the other day we were discussing the commission on race and disparity, and these things just seem so watered down, and yet them here now. Okay, the Premiership might get weak. They're going to be losing money. All of a sudden, they're thinking about putting things into law.
Yeah.
I so wanted it to work.
No, this is our pain. This is our pain because this is our lived experience, and I think I can speak for all of us. When one of the things that we do, I sometimes do that thing that you do, to be frank, looking at a person of color who might catch my eye, and I think, oh, they're well spoken, or they made a good point about that, or oh, they turned up on this program, and I might sit down there with my queen and say, I wonder. And far too often I've been disappointed where I've had to go, I've had to look, another one, So yes, I share your concern about how can we believe somebody's conviction about their allegiance to their blackness and black empowerment and black achievement, when in fact it seems to some degree that they may well have sold out. Of course, if they were here, they would argue that actually their blackness has little to do with the partner who they choose. But that's for a whole nother discussion, right?
But then you can't serve two masters though, because the counter argument would be that your blackness has nothing to do with the game either.
Indeed.
You're there to put the ball in the back of the net, as somebody, I think it was Kush said earlier. So be quiet and do it.
Yeah, man, be a loyal
Maybe the
servant.
Fox reporter was right. Yeah,
for sure.
Being a loyal servant. Ebony, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no. I was just actually concurring what my fellow panelists were saying there.
I think in the United Kingdom, America is slightly different because they have baseball, they have basketball, they have other sports, hockey and whatever if you're in Canada and so. But this is the sport that captures the country's imagination. You know, I remember when Stephen Lawrence was murdered, and I think about within a year or so there was an England game, and you know the man come out and he tell you how much people did I watch. He can tell you in the break time how much people go make cup of tea when England are playing, blah blah blah. But yet there was no such kind of analysis of what how much of the public were tuning into the Stephen Lawrence trial. So football plays a special role. I mean, the so-called royal family came out and spoke on this European Super League thing, you know.
True. Yeah.
And for those going into it, I've often asked myself quite recently, how can we prepare more of our young people, not just only to play football, but to be political minded within the structures once they get in?
Okay, but then I think that's a whole lot. I think that's a whole lot to ask of them. Remember, from
Never
the
get enough money, man. Chop.
It's not about the money. It's not about the money, right? In terms of grassroots level, just think about this at grassroots level. Yeah. When they're cherry picking little boys of any color around the country, just in this country, they're cherry picking little boys, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, right? And then they have them on their books until they're juniors, and then they have them on their books again until they're 16, and then they can decide whether or not they either want to sign them up or drop them.
Good point.
Okay, in all of that time there, part of what they're doing is that they're developing a mindset for that young person where, providing you're not going out killing anybody, because you're such a talent, we'll have you, right? So we'll have you whether you black, white, green or blue. We'll have you for the betterment of the team. It doesn't mean that we value you as an individual, or that we value your race or your culture or what you might or what you might have to say. Remember, many footballers are poorly educated, if educated at all. That's not an accident, because they invested so heavily in this talent and were indoctrinated in such a way, you know, just come, go for the trial, go for another game. You can make it, you can make it, you can make it. So that's what they invested in, often at the expense of any education. So it's a bit harsh for us, really, to expect them to also be
politically minded.
Well, politically minded and articulate to a point where they can communicate a number of issues and address a number of issues that are happening globally, and earn £120,000 a week for putting a ball in the back.
You know something? I agree with you. However, this is just my observation. One of the points I was making was, is it possible for us to raise young, politically minded, good footballers is one of the things. And then the other point of it, and this is something that isn't just particular to football, but white people will come out like Patrick Bamford and then will say what they have to say. But with us now, it has to reach some crescendo, because with Raheem Sterling, it was the fact that people were looking at him and say, well, look how him buy a big house and car.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a sentence before that. So now all of a sudden, when certain people pick it up, he can't know the links with racism, you know, the racist undercurrents were starting to come to the surface. But why professional players do come out with political statements? And I'm sure these players, even if they're not deeply political in terms of black upliftment, they still have a sense of what's happening. But they're not coming out. They're not putting themselves ahead of it. And I'll go back to the locker room culture. Maybe that's overwhelming. But it's something, you know, all these mothers and all these fathers who are taking their sons out, age 6, and them playing football, I'm asking them to see beyond just the football. Every great sports person that we've ever looked at has had a political conviction. Muhammad Ali is one. They've had a political conviction, and it makes their sport more meaningful. as opposed to you go in there, you earn 10 million and you go living at the boonies with your girl and your children. That isn't enough. You know, we're not getting enough investment. We're not getting enough returns to our community. We're not getting enough things highlighted by our players. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to do both.
Right.
We've got some 6 minutes left.
Well, they will need to do both, because if they're still, while all of that is going on, they are still individually complaining about the treatment that they're getting, whether it's from the crowd, whether it's within the club, whether it's from the management. They're going to have to create some kind of protective layer for themselves. And they can only do that by reaching out to each other and some kind of collective action. I'm not saying that any individual has to do it, but there are enough of them, and reach across to Europe, Brexit notwithstanding, and the experiences of African players across Europe in clubs as well. There is power there if they can harness it.
You know, right now there is. Sorry, I'm just gonna make this quick point, Ebony. There is this thing about when you're experiencing racism, should you come off the pitch or not? Them can't even formulate an answer to that. Go ahead, Ebony.
I think I'm thinking about how much room they have to be politically minded, or how much encouragement there is as well. And I would think perhaps that alongside, the things like the training, the physio, and the guidance around how to deal with the media, there should also perhaps be room for that politically mindedness. Maybe not in its more stark context, but certainly, things around racism. Specifically, and how that is dealt with, and how that how the clubs are supporting that or discouraging it, etc., and how they can complain and be supported. And one thing I want to say before we finish is, as an Arsenal supporter, I would actually like to give props to the special one, Jose Mourinho. Why? Because he's the only Super League manager ever to be sacked.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Ebony, that's cruel. Ebony, that's
very cruel.
Whoa. We have a lot of Tottenham fans listening to show,
I make no apologies for being an Arsenal supporter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, this tribalism.
You see me? Well, we do share Sol Campbell, so I guess it's not as bad as that.
Yeah.
But and going back to Ebony's point about what they can, these are personal choices. This is about personality, and sometimes, like I said, during the lockdown, I think it was I don't know if it was Zaha, but they were highlighted for meeting up and having parties. I want them to enjoy them life. Nobody don't want it. All I'm saying is be a bit more visible on some of these other issues. And even when Wilfried Zaha said he's not taking the knee, then just tell us what it is you will do then. Because you don't have to take the knee, but you could do something else. You could do something else. And people are even inviting them. This is it's like if I was in a team of 10 men and 1 woman and we wanted to know about a woman's issue, but I turn to the woman and ask her.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that's happening now. White players are asking for some leadership, or at least a little bit of signposting from some of the black players. And we're not asking you to go around and raise up your fist every minute and say black power. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is there seems to be an absence of confidence and presence in this space. This open space. It's like an open goal, put it away if you use a footballing metaphor, where you can say a little bit more or do a little bit more. Final comments. We got 2 minutes to go.
I didn't think it was going to work, and I'm glad it's fallen. It's imploded in a couple of days. I didn't think it was going to work anyway.
Okay. Ebony?
Yeah, I think it's a real threat to the Premiership, and it absolutely is all about the money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kindred, have you been educated today on your question?
I have been educated. It has opened up my thinking, and I do understand it. And I do understand how deeply the tribalism goes. I understand that a bit better. But they're not making it easy for themselves at all. No. At some point, you have to draw a line in the sand.
Well, my final part would be summer is coming, get out in the park and start kick some ball. Until the next time.
I hear that.
Walk good.
Goodbye, ESL. Farewell. And good riddance.
Goodbye, Jose Mourinho.
Take care, family. Be safe. Take care.
Special one. Walk good. Take care.
Organize, sit down, reason and talk.
This show is sponsored by Sunrise Organic Sea Moss.
Who say can drink sunshine?
Included below are related links to this discussion. Please share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, talk the thing.
ORT is a Glover Media production.